This is a super important update for everyone listening. How can a law passed in Europe censor Christians and Christian ministries around the whole world? Well, it will. And this ministry is already planning evasive action right now. Because just this week, we had a video taken down. Was it related to the new law? Well, we don't know. It wasn't explained. At the end of this teaching, however, you will have an opportunity to see that new taken down video. But this law won't just affect the Nelson Walters channel, but all your favorite content creators, ministries, and churches who produce either online digital content or have websites. It's an enormous power grab, and this one comes through the back door, unexpected, stealthily, from a location you never expected, the EU. Have you even heard about this yet? And the law's timing, September 2023, is no accident. Why do all of these things seem to happen in September, October? We had a community member ask us that rhetorically. You know, the Revelation 12 sign in Virgo from 2017, the red heifers, UN summits, etc., etc. Could it be that it has something to do with the Hebraic High Holy Days taking place right now? I think it absolutely has to do with that and the UN summits, as we'll explain later in this video. You will also need an alternative forum where you get some of your information. We're experimenting with this right now. You're going to need this because incredible prophetic events are going to be taking place in the next couple of years, and both you and I need to hear about them. If you can't get it here, you're going to need to find a link to where it is found. And that, of course, is why you follow this channel, because we provide our followers with the link between what the Bible says will happen, prophecy, and what is taking place right in front of our eyes on the world stage. And we plan to do that as long as we're able, no matter what the forces of wickedness in heavenly places have planned. So, if you haven't subscribed yet, consider joining us, because our traditional channel will be the link to content that you not only can't get elsewhere, but we assume you might not even be able to get here in the near future. But we'll point you where you can go. This channel is the link. Of course, my worry is about all the millions who don't follow this channel, don't follow other channels, don't even realize that this new law is in effect, or that the removing of some content and information is happening, and it will have a chilling effect, as I stated. Now let's explore what just happened across the pond in the EU. You know, the ones whose House of Parliament was intentionally built to resemble the Tower of Babel, and their slogan, "Many tongues, one voice," was an intentional, direct slap in the face to God's providence that saw fit to stop the building of the tower and to divide the languages because of man's pride. And yes, the EU is proving man is at it again, trying to build a one-world governance system, and this law is part of that plan, the biblical plan. So, what did Europe just do? Why are they doing this now, and what impact will it have on ministries all over the world? Europe just passed something known as the Digital Services Act, DSA, which will likely eliminate personal freedoms and free speech, not just over there, but as we said, all over the world, as you will see. Let's listen to European Union Commissioner Thierry Breton describe this act, which he says will strengthen democracy by protecting you from dangerous online content. And while he speaks, ask yourself, who is this content dangerous to? You and me? Or do they think this content is dangerous to them? Let's give him a listen.
Today, the Digital Services Act, the so-called DSA, becomes legally enforceable for very large online platforms and search engines. These systemic platforms play a very, very important role on our daily life. And it is really the time now for Europe, for us, to set our own rules. The DSA is here to protect free speech against arbitrary decisions. and at the same time to protect our citizens and democracies against illegal content.
So, Mr. Breton gave us some clues. The act is already enforceable. And it's enforceable against large platform providers and search engines. So they're going after both the content and the search results. And notice he called certain content illegal content. Certain content then has been moved from the legal box into the illegal box. How did that happen? Let's listen to that part again, because I think it's worth hearing his words one more time. Notice how he throws out the term free speech, when in reality, this law appears to be making some speech illegal. So what he's really saying, in my opinion, is we're protecting your freedom to say anything you want, as long as we agree with it. But if we don't, we're calling it illegal and taking it down. Let's listen again.
The DSR is here to protect free speech against arbitrary decisions, and at the same time to protect our citizens and democracies against illegal content.
So what does the Act call illegal content? It uses incredibly vague terms such as misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech. The goal of the legislation is to clamp down on what they have made illegal on the internet. But of course, the catch is they get to decide what the illegal content is. Very convenient. This act decides what governing body also is going to be sitting in a room deciding that question. I'm sure right now you're thinking back 3 years ago and it frightens you. When you think about things that were deemed as misinformation then, that now are universally accepted as accurate and true. Back then, it was fact checkers that made these kind of decisions, and a new team of fact checkers will enforce what does and what doesn't match the definition of legal set forth by the EU. You know, the same guys who just passed this legislation. Do you trust them? Or is it a fox guarding the henhouse sort of situation? Okay, so I get why this will be a problem for our community living over in the EU. We have many followers in Britain, France, Spain, etc. We love and care about you guys and how this is going to affect you. But why will this new law have worldwide impact? We said it would. We said it would affect us here. The answer is that the act is enforceable against large social media companies such as Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Google. If the EU's fact checkers say, take down some content, it's illegal in the EU, to these platforms or block this search result to them, let's say the platforms don't do it. What would happen if they didn't comply with the EU, with their wishes? Well, they can be fined up to 6% of your yearly profits. Do you think that will get their attention? I do. But why would Facebook, for instance, comply? 307 million EU users use Facebook on a daily basis. I'm sure the other platforms have just as significant an EU presence. So if the EU says take something down or block some search result, the big players will do it. And they'll take it down everywhere. Of course, what we saw in 2020 is that some of these platforms might want to take that content down anyway. But this is a convenient excuse, isn't it? But in either case, the EU has just become the fact checker for the whole world. Here is a tweet by that same EU European Union Commissioner, Thierry Breton, speaking of how excited he is to begin this enforcement process. Quote, "My services and I will thoroughly enforce the DSA and fully use our new powers to investigate and sanction platforms where warranted." I'm sure you realize issues like hate speech, disinformation, misinformation are incredibly vague terms and have proven in the past, as we said, to be vulnerable to political opinions and viewpoints. Great. just what we need. Because once they flag a piece of content that doesn't match their viewpoint, the service provider or the platform is obligated by law to take it down. Petty bureaucrats who are running these fact-checking organizations now will be in charge of free speech on the internet. Okay, on to the third question. Why now? What is significant about the timing of this law? And why does it have a significant biblical and prophetic impact? Well, because a lot of important prophetic events may be about to take place. This September 18th through 19th, the UN Summit for 2023 takes place. Then, later this fall, as we reported on this channel, it's likely that a red heifer ceremony might happen on the Mount of Olives, opening the door to negotiations to divide the land of Israel in exchange for the right to Temple Mount sacrifices, the very sacrifices that the Antichrist will take away during the tribulation, as per Daniel 9:27. I don't know about you, but I want to hear about all three of those things, at least multiple viewpoints of them. Then, in May 2024, the World Health Organization is proposing a pandemic preparedness treaty, where they hope to assume control over healthcare worldwide in the event of what they would term an emergency. And then the granddaddy of them all, the real treasure chest for the globalists, the United Nations Pact for the Future in September 2024, which we have reported on extensively on this channel, and which may be the famed covenant with the many that launches the tribulation. That's quite a lot of events that are important to you and me and to the globalists who don't want anything to interfere with these things becoming reality. So if someone is able to control the narrative about these things and present only one side of the story, how much easier would it be to make these things a reality? A lot easier. You must remember that the plan of the globalists dates back over 100 years, and that is now at stake in these events happening in the next 12 months. In their minds, I would imagine nothing must stand in their way. So this EU law is a convenient way to blame Europe for controlling speech. It's brilliant, in my opinion, in a dark sort of way. When we think of the EU slogan, many tongues, one voice, remember we mentioned that earlier? This takes it to a whole new meaning. Many nations, many ideas, but now only one that you will hear. One voice, one idea, their idea. This is temporary, of course, because once the Pact for the Future occurs in 2024, the UN plans to take over enforcement of fact-checking all over the world on its own. It is a prominent feature of the pact or covenant that they plan to make with us, the many. However, in the meantime, the globalists need help making that pact for the future a reality. This law may play a major role in helping that happen. Remember that he strengthens a covenant with the many for a 7-year period or week of years, according to Daniel 9:27. If he has something to do with it, then the Antichrist spirit does as well. It gives you a sense of what might be going on in our world right now, what's afoot all around us. Okay, that's what they're doing. But how about us? What about the Nelson Walters channel? What are we doing? Well, for one, we will be holding Return of the King watch parties on our private streaming service. Things like this act aren't just affecting us. It's affecting Christians and ministries worldwide. So we plan to invite very prominent ministries to join us for these free 90-minute watch parties, where we plan to fill you in about biblical prophetic events and to discuss them with our guests. And you'll get to ask questions. If you keep tuned during the fall, you'll hear more and more about these watch parties, when they're going to happen, who our guests will be, and how you can sign up. And remember, they're going to be free. Also, you might not know it, But all of our videos are also found on Rumble. And that now includes the video that you're not able to watch here, that we talked about at the beginning. It discusses the alliance between globalists and many of the causes that have come to prominence in just the last 10 to 15 years. You know the one. Some of them are on the screen. Why are these causes winning in the media and in government? Why does this alliance exist? And how are the globalists using each of these causes? And what do they have to gain from it? Because it's what the globalists have to gain that's important here. That's why all this is happening. That video is on Rumble right now, and down in the description of this video, you'll find a link to that other video. I recommend you watch it, both for the content, because you're going to understand culture so much better after watching that video, I'm sure of it, and because Rumble might become one of our main conduits of what I would call sensitive information. It might be a place that you go often in a very short time. Get a little practice logging in, save the link to the site, etc. It might be hard to find in the future. Remember, search engine results are one of the things that the new law is going to target. You might not find us on Rumble in the future, so save that link now. And if you haven't seen our video on the UN Pact for the Future, well, click right here to keep watching and learn why we think it has a possibility of being the covenant with the many that launches the tribulation. Till then, this is Nelson, and I'll see you there.